If you're a musician that uses lots of effects, sooner or later you find some that sound so good for what you're trying to do that you just always leave them on. But once that happens, it can be easy to stop thinking about it. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 new ways to think about the gear you always leave on in order to be creative. For pro tip number 1, I want to talk about the 29 boost. This is a very clean boost. It can make you a lot louder without coloring your tone much at all. So my first pro tip is turn this up all the way and then leave it on permanently. Now you might be wondering, if that pedal doesn't change your tone much, why don't you just turn it off and then turn your amp up and get the extra volume that way?
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Well, the reason to do it is that some pedals will flip out if you put them after a maxed out 29 boost. My favorite example is the MXR Phase 100. I have a vintage Phase 100. This pedal goes bananas if you feed it the amount of volume that a 29 boost can produce. This is what the Phase 100 sounds like by itself normally. And this is what the Phase 100 sounds like when it's getting nuked by the 29 boost. Now, I love that sound. I might not use that sound all the time, but if I want to get it ever, the easiest way is to just leave this on permanently, and then I only need to step on one thing if I want the sound of both. By the way, if you want to buy any of the gear in this video, I have affiliate links you can use that'll give me a small commission on anything you buy. I'll put the affiliate links in the video description.
Money!
For pro tip number 2, what about a clean boost that is less than perfectly clean? What about one that introduces some of its own bullshit? Well, those can be fun too. Boss recently released the BP1W Booster-Preamp pedal. This can do clean boost, but it can also reproduce the preamp sections of the Boss Roland Space Echo and the original chorus ensemble. Both of those effects were discovered to have sort of an interesting preamp color. Like, even if you weren't using the Space Echo as an echo or the chorus ensemble as a chorus, even then they were doing an extra number on your tone that people realized they like. Now, of them, my personal favorite is the CE1, the chorus ensemble. I've always associated that style of breakup with like low-tech sadness. It just reminds me of like sad olden times in a way that I like. So the first thing I did when I got this booster is I tried it with a Boss vibrato. I tried it with my personal favorite, the Boss CE3. This also has a vibrato mode in it that I associate with like low-tech sadness. See if you can hear what I mean at all. This is what the vibrato sounds like by itself. And this is what it sounds like when that sound is being completed by the CE mode in the Booster-Preamp. I don't know if you can hear any part of what I'm saying when I say that there's like a low-tech sadness to that, but I love it. For pro tip number 3, I want to talk about a very popular always-on pedal, the Benson Preamp. This creates beautiful distortion, and what it sounds like with the guitar is well documented. So I want to talk about a different way to use this, which is the distortion this can produce is so natural that I like to take digital sound sources and run them through this and force those like unnatural digital sounds to enter the natural world a little bit through this. 2 of my go-tos for this are the drum machine and my OP1 synth. This is what that sounds like normally. And this is what that sounds like going through the Benson Preamp. And my other go-to is the bass synth sound in my Vongon replay synth. This is what that sounds like normally. And this is what that sounds like going through the Benson Preamp. Now you might be thinking, isn't the Benson Preamp a guitar pedal? And isn't it voiced for guitar frequencies? And so if you put non-guitars through it, won't you just be forcing those instruments to enter the frequency space that's normally reserved for the guitar? And won't that cause mix problems because you'll just be sort of overflowing your mid-range frequencies and you won't have anything else? And yes, that can be a problem. But if you don't do it all the time and you only do it sometimes, and then you build a track around it and you let the bass and the drum sound that went through the Benson Preamp, if you just let them be the priority, it can actually sound great. Since we're talking about low levels of breakup and like minor distortion, there is a sweet spot. In my opinion, the sweet spot is when one note by itself doesn't do it, but if you play 2 or more notes at the same time on a guitar, that does it. If you can get your rig to break up on 2 or more notes, that's where a lot of the magic happens. So for this pro tip, I want to talk about the 900 fuzz from Fairfield Circuitry. Now this is a fuzz, and it can obliterate, but a cool thing about it is that it can also be forced to be clean or a little past clean. This is the setting I found that I like to use for this. This is what my normal sound is. And this is what it sounds like using the 900 fuzz for a little extra breakup. The other cool thing is that if you use the fuzz this way, it's like an unusual route to get there, and it'll be a slightly different tone than what everyone is used to hearing. Everybody knows the Benson Preamp is good. If you get it, you'll sound good, but it'll sound like the Benson Preamp. Sometimes you gotta misuse a different piece of gear just to be a little different. For pro tip number 5, I want to talk about Clean from Chase Bliss. This pedal is like a tribute to the idea of always-on effects. And one thing I admire about it is that in addition to being a pedal that sounds good, it also represents like a point of view, which I think is cool. But the thing I want to talk about specifically is that one of the things this pedal can do is that it can just be used as a stereo compressor. And anytime I get one of those, I try to recreate the compressed piano sound in Crosstown Traffic by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I have always been obsessed with the sound of the compressed piano in that song. You should listen to it right now and like see if you can spot the piano. It's almost unrecognizable because it's been mutated by compression. And I think it's extremely cool. And I've always wanted to be able to reproduce it, and I've never been able to. And when I tried with clean, I was still unable to. I may never be able to do it. But this time, in my attempt with clean, I ended up discovering a different, very specific compressed piano sound that I also love, that is also has a very clear identity and has also been used in at least one very popular recording.